Hey, thanks for joining us on the Eat Crunchy podcast. We are three sisters on a journey towards healthy lives using Weight Watchers to get there. We'd love to hear about your journey as well on our Facebook page or at eatcrunchy.com. Hey, everybody. It's Rebecca, Lisa, and Heidi here for our weekly podcast. We're excited to talk with you today and are hoping that you're finding success on your weight loss journey. Today I wanted for us to kind of have a conversation about how you talk to yourself, how you think to yourself, what role thoughts, whether positive or negative, have in your weight loss journey and your fitness journey, just in your daily life. I'm bringing this up because I'll kind of share a story. I went to a Zumba class this week. I love Zumba, but I haven't been in over a year. And I have a love-hate relationship with Zumba. I love it because I love to dance and I just get lost in the music and I have a lot of fun. But I'm super critical of myself. And I found myself when I looked in the mirror and I saw myself and I realized what I was looking at didn't really match how I was feeling inside. And I started kind of yelling at myself. I'm like, oh, Rebecca, you look so ridiculous. I can't believe your body's moving that way. Look at all the jiggle. And then I was like, you're so stupid. You can't figure it out. Like I was beating myself up and I had to, in a sergeant-like voice, I'm like, Rebecca, stop. You're not allowed to talk to yourself that way. You're having fun. You're energized. Look at how good you are. You're doing such a good job of working out even when you didn't want to. And it's been a long day and I'm really proud of you. And I had to spend a lot of time kind of mentally reworking the negative thoughts that I was feeding myself. And I just, I wanted for us to talk about what your experience is with that and what are things that you find helpful. And so I guess what I was wondering, Lisa, Heidi, do you have the same problem at all? Do you have those negative thoughts that bombard you at times?
This is Heidi, and yes, I do.
I'm always positive to myself. I never say anything.
I actually had this experience about, I want to say it was a few months ago. And I worked from home and my husband was working from home on the same day. And I went into the bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, oh my gosh, you're so ugly. Look at that hair. Aww. And I walked out and my husband turned around from his desk and he said, hey, beautiful. And I was like, it's funny that at almost this exact same instant that I was criticizing myself, my husband was giving me positive words and calling me beautiful. And I thought, there's a real problem with self-talk. My negative self-talk all the time is really impacting. I don't even think about it. So that day I actually started counting how often I say negative things to myself.
Oh, wow.
And I'm embarrassed. I mean, it's a lot that I just it was constant that I was like, oh my gosh, why'd you do that? Oh, that's so stupid. Oh, come on. Just constant nitpicking of myself.
So Rebecca, when you said that we should talk about this, and I've been trying to pay attention better, because I think sometimes it's just sort of the way it is in my mind and I'm not even recognizing it. But, I was thinking about, first of all, listening to you guys, I would never let anyone else talk to any of my sisters like that. We let ourselves say things to ourselves that even we would not let someone else say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would totally defend myself if somebody said any of those things, And the other thing I was thinking about is, because we know ourselves so well and we know our own anxieties, our self-talk is really to the point of we push our own buttons really well.
Yeah.
We know exactly how to hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. The things that we have the highest anxiety about or the highest guilt about, whether it should be something we feel guilty about or not, that's where our self-talk jumps in, right at those sort of things that we're working on. And so it's double damaging, for that reason. And then I was realizing as I was thinking about this topic that the things that I'll say to try to counteract it, I'll be like, no, Lisa, you did a good job today. I try to talk myself out of it. I don't tend to believe the positive voice. I believe the negative voice. I'm like, because I know those are my deepest anxieties. The positive one
has no credibility.
Yeah, the positive voice that's like, get out of here. You're so, okay, we're all happy. No.
I love the inner dialogue that's going on.
And then I have to, you almost have to say 2 or 3 times as many positive things just to kind of barely talk yourself off the ledge with the negative voice.
Well, and I've noticed too that when I'm worried about what someone else is going to think about me, I'm thinking really mean things. Mm. And this actually, someone on Connect and I were talking about this, that I had posted that I felt really brave because I had told my family and friends that I was working on Weight Watchers, and she posted that she hasn't found that bravery yet, and she's embarrassed to talk about like healthy meals that she's trying to do because people are gonna think, oh, you know, who's this really overweight person trying to talk about healthy foods, like that it would be really embarrassing. So she's kind of anticipating that people are going to think really negatively about her, but really she's the one that's kind of already beating herself up before even doing it. And I totally identify with that because I'm like, oh, she's going to think this, he's going to think this, when they're really probably thinking, what do I have to do today? They're not even noticing me. You know?
That reminds me of when we decided to start this podcast. We had this conversation and we thought to ourselves, are we successful enough to even start this podcast?
Yeah.
And then we determined that it wasn't about the success. It was about the journey.
Yep.
And so even though we hadn't gotten to our goal weight and we all have a lot to go.
A lot to go.
I'm glad we're all agreed on that. We have a lot to go, people. We're not going anywhere.
We decided to start it anyway because we thought it would help us. And you know what? It's not like people don't look at me and see how much I weigh. I hope that when people look at me, they see me.
Right.
And if they see my weight, and they're annoyed by that, that's okay. We don't need to be friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think I when you said that, Rebecca, that it's interesting because when I'm negative to myself when I'm by myself, but you're right. There is a special sort of strong negative Lisa inside of me whenever I sort of perceive that somebody else is judging me. And you know, and it's hard to say that because this is something that's so personal. Weight loss is so personal, but it's so visible.
Yeah.
So other people have problems. This is what I've always said. Other people have problems in their life that they need to work on, but they don't wear it the way that people that have a lot of weight.
Anxiety.
Well, and there's so many judgments about being overweight.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that there's just these beliefs that like, well, because you're overweight, you're lazy or you're not as smart or you can't take care of yourself. When I am, you know, sitting with very brilliant, capable, hardworking people, and yet we're all overweight.
Mm-hmm. Right back at you.
So I have this phrase that I call myself, I know that I've told you guys this before. I call myself fatty, chicken patty. I don't know where it started, but since I was a kid, when I talk to myself and I'm frustrated about my weight, I call myself fatty, chicken patty. And I don't know why, but so anyway, this week I was thinking about this topic, and I was thinking that I need to eliminate that from my vocabulary, and yet I still, even though I was being mindful of it, I was still calling it, like I was still calling myself that as I was, you know, walking around.
And can you imagine how you would feel if you found out that one of your kids was saying that to themselves?
Right.
That was their inner dialogue, was fatty chicken. I mean, that's heartbreaking.
The question is, how do we stop that kind of negative talk? We talk about the positive, and Lisa said that, you know, we have to do a lot more positive. For me, I feel like I have to not just talk to myself positively. I have to engage in positive things all the time. Like, I have to be reading good books. I have to be listening to good music. I have to be having positive conversations with people. I have to be outside to enjoy the outdoors more, because I feel like that places me, it just gives me a view outside of myself a little bit that I don't know why, but it just brings more positive feelings about who I am, and that, you know, that I'm here on this planet, that I'm important too.
So I did a little, and I'm putting air quotes, but you can't see on the podcast, research. In that I
Googled it.
I Googled it. Yeah. And I just made a list. If you guys are okay, I can share. I'm interested in what you think about these, because I mean, they're not, the ones that I felt like were just really bad ideas I didn't write down, but I felt like these had at least some merit to them. So just a short list of ideas from various articles on Google. So one of them's talked about, first of all, just recognizing the critic, and that might seem obvious, but like I don't know that I always recognize that I'm doing it. You know, it's just a thought. Sometimes it's not even, we say self-talk, it's not always like a whole conversation. It's just a thought, like, oh, you're unworthy of this, or...
Well, and I'm pretty analytical about things in general. And so sometimes I think I'm being analytical, or I'm just thinking about things. And I think that those are legitimate thoughts without realizing they're really negative, and I'm beating myself up.
Right.
You know?
So this article went on to say, recognize the critic, and then it said separate yourself from the critic, which I thought was interesting. So like, that's a third party that's doing that, and then try to replace the critic. So, again, these are all sort of highfalutin. That would be nice if I could just do that at the drop of a hat. But I thought that it's interesting to kind of separate yourself and it's not you saying it. It's a critic, then you've just got to like not think of it as serious advice or whatever. Another one talked about knowing the triggers. So like, when is it that you're most likely to have bad self-talk? And we talked about that a little bit already, right? Like, whenever we perceive someone else is judging us, maybe sometimes then we're harder on ourselves. Another one that I think is actually really good, and I think something that Weight Watchers has helped with, is to stop black and white thinking, right? There's not bad foods.
It's not good or bad.
Yeah, I just because I had a piece of cake, like, that's okay. That's like, I'm allowed to have a piece of cake. So, and with everything else, like, just because I didn't exercise every single day this week, if I exercise 3 days this week, like, that's a positive thing. So, one of them talked about questioning the underlying premise of the critic, like fighting back, like,
what evidence do you have for this?
Yeah,
negative.
So just because I did this, does that make me a bad person? Does everybody who has a piece of cake, are they all bad people? Like have an argument with yourself. And people already tell me that I talk to myself. I don't know that I need more. This one I thought, the last two, this next one I thought was very interesting. It said, write out the insult. Like, write it down.
You have to
That's
write it out, you
painful.
wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and then you look at it and you think, that is ridiculous. Like, now that I've written that down, what a stupid thing to say to myself.
Yeah.
Like, how could I say that? And then the last one, which I think is a really good idea, is it said take a break from social media, where sometimes we are getting perceptions that everybody else's life is good and ours is bad. And it sort of just reinforces some of the bad views that we have of ourselves. So just some ideas from the net.
Well, and
The interweb.
the blogs. I'll say a couple of things that have been helping me this week. One is talking about it. I can get in a real negative loop in my head, and it will go over and over and over. But when I verbalize it, it helps to kick me out of that loop. And so being able to talk about it is helpful. It also, in talking about it, gives me an opportunity to get some feedback. One of the things after I'd had this Zumba experience, I was telling Lisa about it. And a side topic was, this was the first time people have sometimes talked that they feel like they have like a skinny person inside of them, and it's like trapped inside of the big person. I always thought that was kind of a dumb thought, because you're you and that's your body. I had that experience in Zumba class where the person inside of me was like loving life and energetic and dancing so well. And the person in the mirror,
almost professional.
I mean, I could take it on the road. But the person in the mirror, not so much. And I've never had that experience before. And I was sharing that with Lisa, and she said, well, maybe part of the shift is you are healthy inside. Mm-hmm. And it's just taking your body some time to catch up with the changes that you've already made. And I was like, oh, maybe that is. And so sharing it gave me a chance to get some feedback, and then gave me something that I've been thinking about and kind of working through the rest of the week. And so I think those are things that are helping me a little bit. It's not stopping it, but it's getting better.
I think when you talk about it, you get called out on it too, and that's helpful. I know that times that I've shared my thoughts about myself, like my spouse or you guys have been like, hey, don't talk about yourself like that. Or I have a friend who'll say, don't talk about my friend like that. That makes it so like a little bit more personal. And just thinking, when I hear people talk negatively about themselves, I try to call them out on it. Be like, no, you're not. Or not even to refute it, but just say, hey, don't talk about yourself that way.
Yeah.
And so catching ourselves and being able to do that.
Sorry, Heidi.
It's okay.
Another thing too, and not to like go too deep on on a more serious topic, but we're religious people, and we believe that there is a God, and we believe that He's our Father in heaven. And if that's true, and that is part of our core belief system, that means that we have inherent worth as His children, just by being alive, and so does everybody, and even if you're not religious or you don't believe in God, I think almost everybody believes that everybody has inherent worth just for who they are and deserve respect. Yeah. And I think what I've been trying really hard to think about it that way. So if you're saying something to somebody that is not worth anything, which is sometimes how we think of ourselves, then it's no big deal that you said that. But if you consider that you do have inherent worth, and whatever our behavior is, whatever it is that we did that made us upset with ourselves, we're still good, we're still people of worth, where we have value, We're just working through something.
Yeah.
And it's not worth it. You know, that negative talk is not consistent. Sometimes I like to think of it as like, you know, think about like royalty, like, because they're always, you know, they're sort of people that get a lot of respect. Like, you wouldn't talk to somebody who's royal in that way. So why would you talk to yourself in that way?
I'm glad that you brought that up. I think that one of the things that I noticed that I've started doing, I made some goals to bust through the plateau I've been working on and living in for what feels like 35 years. but a couple of my things for my plateau is that I'm working out a lot more, and I'm tracking every bite, and I'm thinking kindly about myself. And what that has meant is that I've legitimately hugged myself this week several times, and I've like patted myself, and I'm like, I'm happy with you, body. I'm proud of you, body. And like valuing my body for what it is and recognizing the gift that it is and the gift from God that it is, and that I'm able to move. And I might not look the way that I think I look in my head sometimes when I'm dancing in Zumba, but I'm dancing in Zumba. Mm-hmm. And I might not be able to do, you know, run a 5K or a 10K or a marathon right now, but I'm walking a mile and mm-hmm. really being able to respect and love the body that I have and recognize the gift that it is. And it sounds really silly, and I feel silly like telling you that I'm hugging my body. I'll tell you, I feel like it's helping. It's helping to heal and like remind me that my body is a gift. It's not a curse. And just because it's heavier than I want it to be doesn't mean that it's any less valuable or important or needed. You
even like stuck up for your body the other day when I said something, which I wasn't trying to say anything negative, but you had said something like, oh, you were talking about some period of time where you had done all these things and you hadn't lost weight. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's got to be really tough. Like, I was trying to sympathize, and you're like, my body is doing the best it can. You know, you were like...
Oh, yeah, you said something like your body just won't get in gear or something. Like, and I'm like, no, my body's working so hard. Yeah. It's doing such a good job.
I was like, yes, it is, Rebecca's body. Yes, it is. Ooh, don't say anything about Rebecca's body. Careful. She's defending it.
I am. Because,
and if that works, then keep doing it.
Yeah.
If that's working for you.
Because this is a gift, and I've shared this before. I have a friend who passed away a couple years. Every day I have on this earth is a gift, mm-hmm. and I want to think of it as a gift, and I want to think of it as filled with possibilities and things that I can be excited. And having a birthday, getting older, having gray hair, having the privilege to work on weight loss is a gift. Mm-hmm. And I just forget that sometimes. This seems like maybe a good place to stop.
We seem to be out of comments about this.
Thank you guys for being willing to talk with us about this, and we want to hear from you guys as well. What's hard for you? What works for you? Are there some of the suggestions Lisa Googled about that you found have been helpful for you as well?
When you Google, do you find something different?
In your quote-unquote research.
Right.
So thanks you guys so much for your support. We really appreciate it.